Hey guys, welcome back to the stream tonight. So tonight's stream really doesn't have a title. I just wanted you guys to join me in the shop. We're planning the steps of basically what we got to do to Thomas's van, Marine One over here. And yeah, I'm just going to give you guys an update on what I'm going through. And I'm prepping tomorrow to start upholstering the panels in the back of the van. So I thought, you know, why not a better way to show you how I prep to get the frame done, get the wood, upholster it, drill all the holes, stuff like that. The tools I use, so I got them back here on the table. So yeah, we're going to talk about three things. The fridge that I mentioned yesterday that had an error code on it. Victor Frigo sent me some troubleshooting guides and stuff like that. So I'm going to go through that. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about 80/20, building an 80/20 frame and also using the 90 little brackets, corner brackets here, specifically the ones from 80/20. We'll talk about the button head cap screw to 5/16-18. We'll talk about the lock washer I use. This is pretty much, 98% of the build is this type of way to connect these two pieces. The next thing we're going to talk about is, well, the third one would be the wood that I use, 1/2-inch plywood, the fabric, which is Marathon, and this is dark oatmeal. I think that's what that is. Anyway, we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about the tools. So not only the glue that I use to upholster it together, we'll talk about cutting it, measuring it, squares, and the table setup that I have, just stuff like that, so that if you're going to be doing panels or upholstery and stuff, you're going to be using 80/20 or wood, or you can actually use wood panels and upholster it. You can just kind of use my steps as a suggestion. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that. And let me go grab my phone real quick. Yeah, so I'm pretty much going to leave the camera rolling here. I'm going to go back inside the van. If you can see, we got a second camera that is inside the van. I'm going to walk over there and discuss what we're going to plan on doing. And then I'll come back over here, see if you guys have any questions. I didn't post an announcement about the stream tonight, so we might not have that many people in the chat, which is all good. But still, ask your questions if you're coming in late. And yeah, let's hop over to the back of the van. All right, guys, we're in the back of the van, and if you watched the stream yesterday, we did the tour on Thomas's van. The right side of the van is essentially what we're going to mirror to the left side. So same thing, we're going to have a panel, obviously bigger than this, but it's going to go here, and it'll tie into this corner. It'll go all the way up to the top. We'll have a piece of black ABS plastic that'll clean up the top section, but this panel will have a slight tape angle to it. Then we're going to be mounting the threaded inserts over here on the left as well. Yeah, just here on the left. Pretty much where these holes are that were factory. So I always cover up the holes in the van with tape, especially if it hasn't been insulated, just so you don't have that like cold little bit of air coming through. I know that sounds ridiculous, but trust me, anything that you can close up and having any type of like airflow makes it much nicer. I was in the back of my van and it was not insulated, and it's just weird that these little holes, you know, it'll have, there's a difference in temperature, kind of makes like a little bit of a convection, but you tape it all up. Again, no, it sounds crazy, but it does make a little bit of a difference. But we'll be putting inserts here to hold the panel on the left side. We'll probably only do one here, and probably do 1, 2, and then 3. We'll probably just do 3. That way we don't have that many bolt holes going on. The next thing we're going to do is, earlier, a couple weeks ago, I went ahead and pre-measured this piece. It's approximately about 36 inches. And so that is going to go into this little recess of the window. Now, I've got it strategically placed so it's not grinding or bumping against the window to kind of shave the paint off. It's just barely off of it. And then we're going to come in with another piece of 80/20. And we'll have a piece coming on this back side. And that'll intersect with this. So that'll be the back support. We will be inserting a nut insert here. So we'll drill into here and we'll vacuum out as best we can the filings, but we'll go up here and we'll have this tied into the van. So you'll have a tying point here, and then you'll have a tying point over here. And then this bottom section will be enough to hold it, as well as this left section. So we won't have to worry about anything. And this is kind of it looks like a weird way of doing this, because typically you would want to panel this off and then fully insulate this. However, I still want Thomas to be able to flip this bottom window insulation up. And then if he wanted to remove it, he could take this and remove it through there. But what we want to do is clean up this side over here. And then the next thing we want to do is make our final panel that's on this side. And we're going to have the panel face here, so this is nice and clean. But it's actually going to go, now this is just for reference, but it's actually going to go on top of this one, but behind this one. So like that. So just as reference, like that. And then this piece over here will go on top of it. And that way you get a nice clean transition. You're not seeing any creases and stuff like that. So it'll just be a nice clean transition here. This will help too, so that when you sleep in the bed, there's a little bit, you know, not only kind of like a little privacy area when sleeping, but it's going to block off any type of kind of chill that's back here as best as we can do, because this is an all glass van, and you really need to insulate as much as you possibly can with the all glass, because you will have a lot of heat loss. However, if you make these little nooks and crannies and stuff like that, it can make it more comfortable. So that's what we're going to do. Put that up there. And then when we're finished with all this, finished with the wood being cut out, or I mean, I'm sorry, when we're finished with the 80/20 frame, we'll start tracing out our wood. So we'll go up and measure it. So tonight what I want to do is get a couple pieces of 80/20 put in here. Just get this one piece up here, the frame. I may drill this while we're doing live tonight and bolt it in, and then put the plus nuts, Rivnuts over here. Once that's finished, I'll show you how I measure the panel and get it ready for upholstery. It's really important that you, let me get the other camera, I'll tell you the rest of it. Okay, so let's talk about what's important. So alignment is very important. You can imagine if you have a panel like this, and you've got these precise holes that are fitting in conjunction with a piece of 80/20 like this. This is just an example. So like that, the holes have to be perfect. So what you don't want to do is measure, cut your wood, upholster it, and then try to go find the drill holes. You don't want to do that. Because if you mess up the holes, you can still save it, move the hole, and then upholster it. It'll be fine. So what we're doing here, this is one of the temporary panels I made for Thomas. This one, for example, what we'll do is we'll cut our wood out, and then we'll find out where all our holes are. There's a couple tricks to doing this. What I do is I kind of line up the piece of wood close to where I have my holes, and then I'll put a mark, and then I'll just, I'm pretty good after doing this for a while, not to pat myself in the back, but I'm able to get it really close to where I can almost eyeball my line and drill the hole right the first time. Now I know if you haven't done it before, that's going to be really hard, so I have a trick for you. So what you're going to do, let me try to make this. All right, so I'm going to over-exaggerate this. But what you can do is you take your piece of 80/20, and you're going to take your little T-nut right here. You're going to take it and you're going to slot it in your 80/20, or you're going to, this is a roll-in T-nut. If you guys don't know what a roll-in T-nut is, there's a little ball with the spring. And what this does is, say you did not have the ability to put this in here and slide it in like that. See how I did that? So say you couldn't do that. A roll-in T-nut, you can roll it in. So you put it here, you push it in, and you can roll it like that. See? So look how I inserted this without sliding it in. I just rolled it in. Okay. So something you can do is find the spot where you want to have your hole. Grab a permanent marker and just measure that line. Now that line is just a visual reference, so if you accidentally move it, you know to slide it back up before you do what I'm about to tell you. Take an extra long bolt, screw it in until it bottoms out, and then okay, so screw it in until it bottoms out like that. And then what you can do is two things. So you can take it and then lay the board on top of the nut, and then take a hammer and just hit the board extremely hard. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make an imprint on the back of the wood. You guys may have known this if you're doing just DIY projects. It'll make a mark on the back of the board. If for some reason you can't get it to make a mark, just draw a permanent marker around the head of the socket head. Button head, socket head, cap screw. Button head, cap screw. Good lord, these names. The button head cap screw. Just put a permanent marker on it, and then do the same thing. Hit the board, and it should give you just a little bit of an imprint. Then you can drill it out, put the panel back up, and then just fine tune it. Usually I'll make, 9 out of 10. It'll be perfect. And then that last one, what I'll do is I'll actually take the drill bit. I'll put, so say this was a panel and I had two holes that were perfect, but the middle one wasn't so perfect. I'll go ahead and bolt the top and bottom down to locate my panel. And then I'll take the drill bit and I'll just go in and drill it out. Then I'll take both of these out. I'll clean everything up, sand it down, and then I'll begin to upholster it. All right, so that is the 80/20 frame. That's us getting the piece of wood cut. Let's go and measure. I'll show you how I measure. It's pretty simple, but you guys might pick something up that you didn't know. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, when we're inside the van, you have to remember that there's nothing really to reference off of. You build your own reference. So that has to do with levelness, squareness. You have to be in control of that the whole time you're building. This right here, going straight up, was very, very difficult because not only did I have to have it's so far out from the wall on the bottom, but so far out on the wall from the top on both sides. Then I had to estimate where I wanted everything to land so that when I did my slatted ceiling, all the slats go in even, all the pieces are even, the ends are even and they meet. Because if you guys can believe this, the ribs that, the cross members that Ford puts in the van, they're glued in. So they can be off anywhere from 1/16, 1/8 of an inch. I don't think I've seen one up to a quarter. Maybe I did have one section that was almost a quarter. They can be, twisted because all they're doing is putting the body together. They're taking these ribs, they're putting the ribs on, but they spray this foam. And I'm not lying. The foam that's set in the foam with the final layer of the roof, that's what holds your roof on. Because I've cut cross members out and I've ripped them out and they've only been held on by that special automotive grade foam. There's no welds. So if that doesn't blow your mind, the fact that the ribs are actually you can't reference off of the ribs. So all the ribs in this van, when I did the supports for the slatted ceiling, I had to have my own jig to create my squareness for the top. So I went from the bottom up here, because also this shop is pretty level. The concrete floor is pretty level, but the van has weight in different sections. So if the van is tilted and you use a level, like a bubble level, that's not going to work. Because if you follow that and now you're on a flat surface, your van's going to be, all your build's going to be kind of torqued to one side. Anyway, long story short, there's a lot of measuring to square everything just to make sure. The 80/20 is nice because it's so structurally true, as long as you cut the ends square. But when you start mounting everything with these 80/20 brackets, everything is very true. So the good news is, if you're dead on, it's going to stay pretty dead on. The bad news is, if you're off, it's going to drift off. For example, when I put this side over here the first time, I thought that this was straight because I squared it here and I squared it here and here. But when I got to the roof, it was actually off about 1/4 of an inch. So I had to redo all that. And think about it. If I'm off 1/4 of an inch on the top, when I make it right, every single piece of 80/20 that I cut is probably 1/8 inch off. So I can't, like all those pieces I have to just use somewhere else in the van because they're wrong now. So, not to put you in a panic, but if you start right, you're going to end right. So don't rush when you get to these steps. Okay, that was a long way of saying the vans do not they're not true. In particular, this side right here, if you notice, I go from here up and then I stop. I stop because the van starts to curve inward. So obviously I can't go straight up. So I have to end my vertical piece here. And so everything is in relationship, has a relationship. So this ended here because that's the top of the water tank. They gave me enough room for the PEX. They gave me enough room for the Murphy bed, enough room for the plywood. So that was my limit. So I couldn't go any more up from there. That's why this bar comes across here. The cool thing is, this goes up vertical. I have 1.5 inches going in. So guess what? This taper comes in about 1.5 inches. So guess what? When I put my piece of wood up there, that curve is going to be hidden because the bottom piece of wood is going to hit the 80-20 on the bottom, and the top piece of wood is going to meet the curve at the top. So I'll have a clean transition over here, and have a clean transition over here. Next part. So let's go ahead and measure this just to see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure the left first. And I'm going to get my distance from the top of the van. And I'm not sure if you guys can see this. I'm away from my computer so I can't see the chat. Oh yeah, you guys can see all that. So the first thing I have to do is I need to measure from this rib bottom down where the cable tray is on the passenger side, and I've got 3.5 inches. So I come over here, I find 3.5 inches, which is, I probably did it on purpose because it's exactly at the bottom of this plastic. So I'm going to measure from the bottom of this plastic down to my final section here, and thankfully it's 55 inches. Okay, so 55 inches is how long the board's going to be going up and down. Then we'll come over here. We've got, here. We have, I think we can do 15 3/4. Now, this is going to pose a challenge too, because I'm not sure yet with the way the van's designed if how much this is coming in. My eye says that it's not doing anything, but as soon as I cut this straight line, we'll find out when we cut our piece of wood. So we've got 55 inches, and the next thing I do is I'll subtract approximately 1/4 inch. And you may ask why, because once we do the spray adhesive and then we do the fabric, we're adding almost 1/8 of an inch to the material at the bottom of the top, so that 1/4 inch. So I'll take the 55 down to 54 3/4, and then this this wide number, it's 15 3/4. I'm going to make it 15 1/2. So 15 1/2, 55 3/4. So let's go write that down. Five and a half. Actually, 15 1/2. 55, no, 54 3/4. Okay, so that's how I do the first panel. The second panel is a little bit trickier, so let's go look at it. All right, so the second panel over here, I'm gonna go ahead and get a bracket so a T-slot so I can go ahead and bolt this in. Anytime that you guys can visually reference stuff in the van, that is paramount. You need that visual reference because there is no other reference in the van. There's nothing telling you that measure from this point and everything's gonna be perfect. Right. The other rule above all rules, don't drop the T slot or the roll-in T nut in the van. You'll be very unhappy. So we're going to take it, we're just going to slide it in here. And after I just told you not to drop it, this is what happens when you're live on camera. If you drop it. Let's see if I can do it. So all we did is we just have a T-slot nut in here. I've got the wrong set of Allen wrench, but it's fine. I just need to cinch it down here. Okay, so what I did here is there is a little bump out in the window. And you have to just ignore this whole backside. You have to, if you're building with wood or you're building with 80/20 or aluminum tubing or anything like that, you are in charge of what's square. And so you just have to, you know that. You're kind of building a cage inside of a cage. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, let's act like we were trying to measure to cut this piece. So what I do is I simply just gum up and I cut it longer than I need to. And I do that because it doesn't matter if you're an engineer, it doesn't matter if you're super precise, you're a cabinet maker or whatever. There's something about a van to where when you're doing a lot of one-off stuff, there's so many things that are affecting the end result that it always has to be tweaked, as much as I've done this. So, for example, this bottom, you want to make sure that one, this is square to the top, that when you did your miter saw cut on your 80/20, it's nice square. You didn't accidentally shift it and it's now like 89 degrees or whatever. So we bolt it in and then it may touch. So what we're going to do is just take a little permanent marker and we're just going to mark it. I'm going to go back to our miter saw and we're going to shave off 1/8 of an inch or so. And we're just going to dial it in until we get it exactly where we want it. You don't want to force something in there off. You want to keep shaving it until it gets true. Don't cheat, because remember, once this is in, it's going to be used as a reference. So if you kind of half did it on this piece and then next the piece comes in and you half did it here, I mean, you could be literally off 1 inch by the time you get back to like over here somewhere. Maybe not 1 inch, maybe maybe 1/4. Anyway, so what I did was I measured it and I just kept shaving it off till I got my clearance exactly the way I wanted it, because I wanted it to just barely be off of this sheet metal. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a corner bracket and I'm going to mount it up here. Now I'm going to have to, that's going to be the only corner bracket I have to modify with the on the bench grinder, because it's going to, that bracket's going to have to be turned a couple degrees, and what that's going to do is going to kick out the bottom of the corner bracket, and I just need to cut that off so when the piece of wood goes on there it's nice and flush. So I measured it, trimmed it, did all that. So that's good. That's nice. It has a home. Let's check the chat. All right, nothing in the chat. So what I'm going to do here is I want to measure from the back side so that I have a clean line. Now this is kind of confusing here. So what I'm doing, I'm getting kind of fancy, but it's because in my mind I know what I want my end result to look like. So the way that I'm doing it looks unconventional, but the end result will make it look right. Because I want this panel to actually go in. The front of the panel is going to hit the back of this 80/20, and the back of the panel is going to hit the front. So what I've done is I've offset my piece of 80/20 off a ½ inch out, or probably a little over ½ inch, probably ½ inch plus, looks like probably an eighth. And that is to allow for the upholstery. Because remember, the upholstery is adding to the wood thickness. All right, so if I measure this, I have exactly 12 inches. Now, the reason I had 55 inches, I got exactly 12 inches. A lot of that is because when I'm designing it, I'll move it like an eighth of an inch or a half to get it to be like a whole number. And then I'll try to do that just so things are nice and correct. Because it's hard to catch a mistake if you have like 15 7/8, and then this over here is, 7 3/4. But if every number is, 16 inches, 12 1/2, and then you have 13 7/8, you're like, whoa, what's wrong? It'll kind of, that's me. That's how I catch if I'm getting off. Anyway, so we got 12 inches. So this piece, we're gonna have we'll have an interesting transition. This piece down here, you could make a piece going from the bottom all the way to the top. However, if you ever needed to get into here to service the water tank or any of these valves, you'd have to take the whole entire panel off. So we're going to keep this bottom panel here as an access panel, and then we're going to start our next panel and go up from there. So since we're doing technically like an inside panel, we're going to take the 12 inches and then we're going to subtract an eighth from each side for the upholstery. All right, so we'll remember the 12, and then we'll go back and change that. So we got 12 inches here, and then we're going to go up here to the top. We're going to reference our side over here. Okay, so it's going all the way to the top. So it's going all the way to this piece of 80/20. So we got, it looks like it's right at, what is this at? So you got 43 7/8, and we're going to bring it back to 43 3/4. So 43 3/4. 43 3/4. So 43 3/4. Let's see, the 12 minus the 2/8, we'll do 11 3/4. Remember, guys, it's just wood. If you mess up, you're just wasting money. It's just wood. Don't stress out. I stress out on the 80/20 because 80/20 is expensive. And I just like to do things accurately, so it's more of a pet peeve of mine. You guys have probably seen, I have a box of my offcuts I'm very proud of. This is the only 80/20 that I've wasted in the whole entire van build, or I mean for Thomas's. So you should make a box like this if you're using 80/20 and try to see how good you can do. The cool thing is, once you have a box of stuff you can't use, you can, these are nice. They then become valuable for the next project because you'll have these just cuts that are not, like these little transition pieces and stuff like that. Or you can use them for like jigs. That's what I do. I'll have some parts of the van where I need to pre-drill some holes. And what I'll do is I'll take the drill press and I'll drill out one of these sticks. And then that way it's my reference so that I can drill holes. All right. So we've got our first panel, 54 3/4, second by 15 1/2. And then we got our second panel, 43 3/4, 43 3/4, and 11 3/4. Let's see here. Oh, hey, Go and Do. Hope you are doing great. Do you draw your design in CAD or another software before build? So, believe it or not, I don't design in CAD or like a 3D modeling program, which is odd because that's exactly what I went to school for. So, my degree is in 3D modeling and rapid prototyping. So, that's the classes I took. So, I did a lot of 3D modeling. We used AutoCAD, but we mainly used Pro E, so Pro Engineer. And then, we learned how to load that up into a CNC machine and have it map out and cut everything. But the funny thing is when I went to go, get my job, that equipment was so expensive that we learned on at college that the companies I went to didn't have it. So I went back to AutoCAD and I used AutoCAD, which is, if you know, it's just 2D drawings. And I just pretty much did everything in AutoCAD because I was just making drawings of parts to take to a machine shop. And long story short, when I started doing this van thing, I thought I needed to do 3D modeling. But what I do is, here, I'll show you a little bit of what I do. The thing is, it's really hard to design something perfectly in a 3D software and have it translate to the van because attachment points and stuff like that. Now, for example, if you were a humongous van builder manufacturer, let's say you're like Storyteller or Winnebago, like making the Revel, or Travado. You have a set team that has a set design plan. They know where all the specific mounting locations they want, but again, it's very cookie cutter. So what I do is I take whatever you have in your head and I make it a reality. So I'm not held back by like a cookie cutter model. I can just, for example, Thomas's van, we took the Ford AC unit and we moved it from the back to the middle, which I don't think I've ever seen been done. It's probably the first time it's ever been done. But if I can see it in my head, I can make it in real life. And the way that I do it is I'll go to here. So I use my drawing pad. And you want to sketch as much as possible. You don't want to get into the whole engineering, getting into the weeds and stuff like that. You want to get the concept down first, and then you want to go out into the, into the world, into Amazon, into stores, and then you want to actually find the physical components, and you want to get that information, and then have that begin to tweak your, hold on a second, this thing's not opening up. So you want to get your layout. So like, this is the layout I want. I want my bed here. I want my kitchen galley here. And then you get what you want for flow wise. And then, okay, let's see here. Let me back up. Trying to hide the taskbar. Come on. Oh, wait, I did it over here. If you guys could see, I have like 4 monitors over here. I'm trying to figure out which one I did this on. All right, let me digress. That's not working. It's fine. All right, so we're gonna go back. So go and check this out. So this is pretty much how Thomas and I did our consultations. So I start off with the consultations in the van build process. Let's just say, you're in the future we're building your van, for example. So the first thing has to do with your use case, because the use case sets the foundation for the power system. That's kind of like your core, like the heart of the van. And depending on how big or small you want that, then we start to develop stuff around it. Because if you don't design your power system off the bat first, it's really hard to increase the size of it. For example, in Thomas's van that we're working on, we don't have any, there's no wiggle room. We could only do 400 amp hours. But we could have done, if we did like the Victron batteries, that would have helped. But the problem is Victron, the battery is in a self-contained unit. So the BMS is external. That's like the brain of the battery. So basically you'll have 4 batteries that have a lot of energy density, but then they have to be plugged into a brain, and the brain has to be plugged into another thing. That's why I like the SOKs, is because they're all independently controlled. Okay. Let's see here. This is why I like live streams. We can just hop on a call. I mean, we just get into other topics. Let's see here. I've been using graph paper and a pencil. Hold on a second. Let me pop up. Let's see. Let's see. Browser, existing, chat. Browser, existing, sub. Browser, existing, subalert. There we go. Hold on, I'm tweaking this window here. Okay. So if you're looking at this photo or the screen, this is the concept we did for Thomas. And pretty much what we did is, this was what we came up after we did a couple of, so this would be like a rendering that I would do. I do all this stuff in real time. I don't think it's kind of a waste of time to just kind of be like a design firm and you design like these 10 drawings that you spent hours on, and then it's like, no, we don't like any of those. So what I do is we'll do a phone consultation. We'll be on like Google Meet or whatever, and I'll be drawing this in real time. Because what happens is, as we're drawing, something might go through your mind, and it's like, oh, no, we want to change that. So we just erase it, and we just keep tweaking and tweaking. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Okay, you've been using graph paper, pencil for general ideas, and then tweak in physical space. Yes. Yep. Yeah, so I get the graph paper out after I know the components you're going to use. So, for example, if you're going to have a bed, don't stress out about the bed size. Just know that that's the area for the bed, because things that you cannot change is you cannot change the footprint of your power system. You can't change the footprint of the refrigerator, or where you're going to put like a hideaway toilet, or where your gray water jug is. You know, those are like physical things that are kind of locked in dimensionally, and you can't. They're going to go in the van somewhere, but like the bed, you can have a queen size, or you can have a short queen, or you can have a short full. If you look up Winnebago Revel, the bed in a Winnebago Revel is, I think it's an inch shorter than a full size mattress. It's not big, but everybody doesn't have a problem. They love the Revel. Let's see here. So I'm going to go back to some earlier photos. And yeah, just keep asking me questions while we're chatting here. I'm going to try to get to some really old stuff. This is fun. It's like going back in time. Okay, so this was like one of the first things that we laid out. And you see, it's super basic. Get my head out of the way here. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is one of the first sketches that we did. And immediately this looks like a different van. Now, we still have our water tank, so that was a footprint that could not be changed. It was the most capacity, but the width-wise, because he has a Paragolfer, so it couldn't be like a 40-gallon tank. It had to be a slim 20 over the wheel well for the footprint to work. We did consider a sink, but in the beginning, he had a chest freezer, like a Dometic CFX... CFX 175 or something like that. And then we had like a fold down table for his chair. And then we had like the wall of electronics, and then we had 2 cabinets, and that was pretty much it. And then we had the Murphy bed. Well, actually, we were trying to go with a Happy Jack, but it was just impossible dimension wise. Anyway, so this was the first one. And then we kind of getting some different angles on, what it looked like as far as the driver's seat. Then we got into like an overhead view, because we're trying to find out, we knew we needed to relocate the AC unit. So this is us finding out where the AC unit is going to go, the hot water tank, stuff like that. And then we kept going. This was our solar panel layout. So we went ahead and started to kind of think about, how much are we going to be able to put on the roof, depending on the roof rack brand that you purchase versus the Max fan versus the company of solar panels. So that's really why I would like actually pause on the graph paper, just really be freehand and very explorative. Don't just be very free. That's all I can say. And then this is us calculating. It's just me talking with my hands, because I like to draw and talk. It helps me kind of put my thoughts. So as Thomas is saying, like, this is what he would like. He would like to use, this much power. I just start kind of branching stuff out. I'm like, okay, well, I need 15 to 30 amps of solar coming in. I need, 30 amps from the alternator. Possible 15 amp shore power coming into this. We want to do SOK. We originally wanted to do 600 amp hours, but again, it was just no way it would fit. We wanted to do, we needed an inverter that was big enough to charge the Paragolfer, run the microwave, and then we just kept going. So we started to get into some calculations. This was us calculate. I mean, I was calculating the SOK battery, so I was adding up, all the inches, the space in between. And the reason that you just want to do it just not neat, don't care, is because as fast as you can say that you're going to go with something, you may change your mind, which is completely okay. Be free to change your mind, because you'll get to a point in your build to where you're like, oh man, I can't go back because I've already made so many hard decisions. So this was us finding out, how the Murphy bed was going to start to go in. Let's see here. Oh, that's my chat box. There we go. And then we moved into, let's see what we talked about. Okay, this was our plumbing design. Because again, we couldn't go on the left or the right side of the tank. Everything had to be on top of the tank. And so that causes concern with how the tank's going to be filled, how the hot water is going to be filled. We've got 20 gallons plus 2.5 gallons. It gives us 22.5 gallons. So, I mean, this is just all stuff we just started tweaking. And what's cool is when you keep going, you start to get this. You start to get kind of like a 3D space. So you can kind of really, this is just me sketching just to give me a feel of like the 3D feel. Because it depends on who you work with. Some clients can be really visual, and then some other ones are, they just want to know that it's going to work. It's hard for them to, understand what it's going to look like, but that's okay. That's my job. So we went from this, and then we just, we kept dialing it in. This is, let's see, yeah. And so this gets into the circuitry. So yeah, let me know if this is too much. I'm just kind of, I feel like I'm talking about the build process. This might be helpful for anyone wanting to understand, like, what are my thoughts on how I put stuff together. So this is all the circuits that were going to be put into his van that we could think of at the moment. We ended up adding 8 more to the system. So again, even though we thought this is exactly what we were going to do, we still ended up adding more. So what you'll see next week on the live streams, we're going to be adding an additional 200 watts of solar to his system. It'll bring it to 550 watts of solar, and I'll explain why we're doing that. I love geeking out too. This is perfect. I'll keep going. Yeah, so this was, because remember, you're spending a lot of money on these parts. And if something is not fitting the specifications with just a little bit more room to grow, you're probably going to be in some trouble. Anyway, this was the electrical layout. We have all our lights. Then we have the fridge, the Baja design, stuff like that. Anyway, this is the electrical layout. Where's my mouse? And then we started to talk about timeline. So timeline is really challenging because you can put the floor down and say you're going to go into the carpet, but then all of a sudden there's with everything that's happening logistically with shipping, I did not think that would play into this, but it really did. I mean, there's some of this 80/20 stuff. It took like a month, almost 2 months for some stuff to come in. It was wild. And then, yeah, it was wild. But anyways, we started laying out the timeline of like when things could be expected to be put together. This is just this looks crazy looking back on it. This is our roof scene lighting layout with the blue is the Baja Design Squadron Pros, and the yellow or orange is the Baja Designs IR. And then we've got, I think that's the awning light. Let's see. And then we keep going. Just more sketches of what we could maybe do storage wise. And then this is one render of what we kind of thought things were going to look like, because behind the sink where we were going to have all the controls, that didn't work out because we ended up having so many controls that just wouldn't fit. So I had to move it to the opposite side of the wall. And so like the thumbnail for yesterday's live stream, that's that control panel. It's filled up. So now this is us trying to calculate, can we have a folding mattress in the bed? This will eventually get solved by Roam Rest. Which I have a note. I need to call him. Okay. And I mean, this gets really technical. So you guys can see I've got 6 inches plus like 0.25 plus 0.5 plus 1.5, which is the 80/20. So in van building, I think I'm going to be making up terms here. It's the only way I can explain this. But there's like tolerance stacking. Might be a word from my engineering days. But it's like tolerance stacking. That's the only thing I can think of. It's when you have so many things that need to go together that you need this bigger number to understand like how much room you need. So the 1.5 inches is like a piece of 80/20. The 1/2 inch is a piece of wood. The 1/4 inch is maybe fabric or whatever. And then 6 inches was the mattress. So that's this 8 1/4. Yeah, it's funny how tricky this was looking back, but it was fun. And then we keep getting to, let's see, what is this? What is this? Okay. So this is the view looking down. So the Paragoffer is here, right here in black. These are the tires. So we have a tire clearance for the Paragoffer to drive in. This is a little man upside down. This is Thomas sleeping in the bed. We've got our 1 foot from the back. So you see what I'm saying? Like it changes so much that you just don't be perfect. You'll get to perfect when you get to like these stages where you're starting to actually dial stuff in. These are power system layouts. So this is this is the batteries, the inverter over the wheel well. Again, just tons of concepts to get it's really getting my thoughts dialed in. And then we get closer to what you guys see in real life, where we have the drawer style fridge, we got the sink, and then we got the little pantry that pulls out. And then we know we got 5 inches here, 18 inches for the sink. So now we're starting to dial this in. What's going on, Jamie? And then we got it down to more power system. We thought he could put his golf clubs right here, but we ran out of room. We thought we were going to do like a TV and a closet and ran out of room. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Now we're talking about the slatted ceiling. So the concepts here, this is the wheel well on the left, wheel well on the right. You know, how are we going to do the insulation? Do we want a flat ceiling or do we want some type of contoured ceiling? How is the 80-20 going to interact? We talked about that. Let's see. So that's the Paragolfer in green. This is the lift bar. So like the pull-up bar. We were going to go with a rope, but we decided to do just a clean piece of 80-20. This is now mapping out the slatted roof in conjunction with like the roof vents and where the 80-20 supports are going. This is kind of just drawing in our where the bed was going to lay down and interact with the power system. Oh, that's a good one. So if you guys, I was telling you about the through bolt. So if you had, this is for the Murphy bed. So we got two pieces of 80-20 here. And so that they don't buckle, we drilled a bolt and bolted a bolt through one piece of 80-20 into the other one and then tapped it. And man, that's been an awesome connection. Let's see here. I don't know what this is. We're going to skip. I lost my mouse. All right, here we go. So, okay, no AC. Yeah, I'm just going to go through a couple more of these and we'll get back to the scheduled programming. Okay, so that was pretty much it as far as consultation goes. This is just like a little math that we did on some live streams. But yeah, so go and do. That is a very long way to explain the process. So hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, guys, in the chat, keep asking questions. This is a lot of fun. I love answering questions. So keep the questions coming in. I'm going to jump over behind me and I'm going to talk about, so we showed you how I measured to get the panels in and the structure that's going to hold the panel in the wall. So now let's drive this desk over here. We'll talk about some tools. So if you can see this is a piece of textured ABS plastic. And so this is what I use. I got this idea from Humble Road, if you guys watch him. And so what Humble Road does is he uses this to bend and put up in the cabinets of the van so that if he ever needs to access or repair something in the van for a client, he can just take this out, work on it, and then put this up. Now, I don't think he does this, but I found a little trick. So what I do is I use the 80-20 and I put it right here. And that way, when I bend it up, the 80-20 holds it like that. So I don't have to do anything at the top. I just have a couple sheet metal screws in the bottom and I can take it right out. So this ABS plastic is a really good way to professionally clean up areas that you can't really make like a wood part that curves. It looks professional and it's slightly easier. All right, next we have squares. I hope everyone knows what squares are. They're how you make stuff square. So you have a small one and you got a big one. And this way you can square your edges, measurements, all that good stuff. So like the corner parts of the wood, for example, like I have a piece of wood right here and there's a section that's already cut out of it, but I still want to use it. I don't want to waste it. So I'm going to use another section, but I'll still have to square off corners, and then I use this to do that. If you're going to build your own van, get a humongous, this is called a drywall square, and it is, it's 48 inches long, and you're going to be needing to make long, straight cuts. So use this to get started. And then what you're going to follow up with, this is an expensive investment, but you can use it for any stuff in your house. So not just the van. So that's a track saw. So this is a track saw guide. It's got some rubber padding on the bottom, and what you do is you lay it down on the piece of wood. So it's pretty much like a skill saw that attaches to a track, and you can precisely slide it down the track. And it makes a perfect cut. And I mean perfect. It's so perfect that you have to pre-cut this strip on the side when you first use it to dial it in. Anyway, so I cut everything with this because I don't have to worry about it being like a wobbly line. Because even though we're just doing fabric or upholstering the panels with fabric, it's not the thickest fabric. So it needs to be a very clean, straight line, because when you wrap it, any imperfection you're gonna notice. So I use this. So I use the squares to get me started. Then I lay this down. And then after I cut the panels out, I go to the next step, which is upholstering, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love upholstery. So you're going to go to a fabric store, and we're going to go online, and I'm going to show you where I get this from. So this is a company. The type of material is called Marathon Fabric. I get it from perfectfit.com. No affiliation, just easy information for you guys. So this is the fabric we used in his van. And you get a big old roll of it. You need to buy Japanese razor blades, okay? I'm telling you. It needs to be OLFA. OLFA. And you need to make sure it's this black blade, OLFA. OLFA. And this is Japanese steel for upholstery. Do not cheap out. I mean, don't do it. And you'll want to make sure you break away the razor blade throughout the process. You want just super, super clean cut. If you don't get a clean cut, what's going to happen is so the reason everybody loves marathon fabric is because it has Teflon in it, and it's extremely abrasive resistant. The problem is when you're scoring this, if you don't do a clean cut, the fibers are so strong, if you accidentally grab one with a crappy razor blade, it's gonna do this. It's gonna hit one of these, and it's gonna do that. It's gonna pull one of these fibers out, and then it's not gonna be good. Don't do it. Pro tip from Nick. All right. So how are we going to adhere it to our piece of wood? All right. You can spray this on unfinished wood. It's okay. You just need to make sure you use 3M Super 77, not Super 90. A lot of people get that confused. Let me get a can of that. All right, in this case, red is good, green is bad, okay? I'll explain why. Let's see. Not sponsored by 3M. Okay, Super 77. Let's read why this is good. It is good for foil, foam, paper, metal, plastic, fabric, cardboard, insulation. Okay. Commercial strength, Super 77. Right there. Super 90. Kick plates, polyethylene, polypropylene, plastic, laminate, concrete, metal, and wood. Okay. That's why these two are different. Just because it says high strength and super doesn't mean the super is bad. This does not work as well. All right. The Super 77. Tonight, we've already gone pretty long with the live stream. I'm going to keep going. Ask your questions. I'm not leaving. But Super 77, just buy a whole case of it. I think that's like, it's like either 9 cans or something like that. It's pretty expensive, but just do it because I buy 4 cans at a time. I don't know why, because I do this for a living, and I should be buying cases. But I just go down to Lowe's and I get 4 cans, and I'm like, man, let me go back and get 4 more cans. Just buy a case of this stuff. It is incredible. There is a technique to spraying it. You want to spray it. You do want to keep about 12 inches away because it needs to, I'm going to use the wrong word here, but it needs to atomize before it hits the wood. If you spray it and it hasn't kind of fogged and it's like liquid, believe it or not, that liquid that gets on the wood right here, the upholstery will not stick to it. It screws it up for some reason. So you want to keep it about that far away. It's about 12 inches or a little bit more. And then you want to let it tack up for a minimum of 1 minute. If you do 2 minutes, that's okay. 3 minutes is too extreme. Don't do 3 minutes. Just do a minute and a half. And use nitrile gloves. So this is a hack. I didn't read this anywhere, but I found out that nitrile gloves will not stick to it. You can peel it right off, and the adhesive won't stick to the nitrile gloves. They're really cool. So I use black nitrile gloves like they use in the automotive shop. It has to be nitrile. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you can tell if it's ready to adhere to. If when you put your fingers on it, it's tacky. It's not wet. Okay. On raw wood, minimum of 2 good passes. If you can do 3 without getting it nice and getting it really gummy, that's a bonus. Because the unfinished wood, what's going to happen is it's almost like stain. When you spray it the first time, it's going to soak into the wood, so there won't be that much adhesive on the surface. And then the next part, you're going to spray a little bit more, and it's going to it's not going to go into it as much. Hold on, my phone is distracting me over here. Ding. It's not going to soak as much in, but then the third coat's going to be perfect. But don't go crazy. You'll play around with it. You'll understand. Okay, now you're not finished. You got to take the can and you got to spray your fabric. You got to spray the fabric and you got to spray the piece of wood. And then once they're both tacky, you put it together. You only got one chance to put it together. You can't put it on and be like, oh, I didn't put it down correctly. You're screwed because you'll have to rip it back off. The adhesive is so good sometimes it may rip the wood fiber out. So you compromise the piece you just cut. Because if you rip the fiber out and you try to reupholster it, it's going to have like a dip. Don't ask me how I know. It's like I've done this before. Yeah, but when you get good at it, you can have really clean, professional looking edges. We're going to redo this piece, but it's nice and light and I can show you the example. Also, don't worry about the backside where you flap it. Oh, make sure you flap it over. It's going to make sure this front part wears really well. It gives it like an anchor on the back. And then I'll show you all these techniques. I'll do a whole video on this. But like down here on the back, don't worry about the backside. All right. I know how I say I like to be Steve Jobs where the inside is as nice as the outside. I do that with like electronics, the 80/20, the brackets and stuff like that. But this tends to be pretty wasteful because 80/20 is important. The electronics are very important. So take your time, do that right from all angles. But this is a place where you can save on fabric. Because the fabric it's not crazy expensive, but this section right here, let's say you mess up. Well, if you double-sided this, then you're not going to have enough later to do, because you will make mistakes. I mean, there's 2 or 3 panels that I just had to, they were excellent, but then I messed up on an edge. I redid the whole entire thing. So that's why we always have a little bit of extra fabric. So I got ahead of myself and I didn't tell you about drilling the holes in the wood. So we're going to take these screws out real quick. We're just going to go over drilling the holes. You want to drill the holes, like I said earlier, before you wrap it. That way the hole is in here And then when you get ready to upholster it, you can just push down, and the dimple is where you'll cut your razor and then make the hole. If you try to drill this after the fact, it's going to tear. It's going to tear out. You run the risk of it catching a fiber. And for my example before, if I can do it again, you run the risk of ripping a fiber out. And remember, these are Teflon, some of these, and it's just gonna rip, and there's gonna be a string all the way up here. Ask me how I know. I've done it before. I've thought I could get away with drilling a hole. The drill bit caught and just pulled the whole string out. It sucked because I did a good job on that panel, and I had to redo it. Yes, the fabric is easily cleanable. So there are two things. If you do anticipate cleaning it, like it's a high wear area, for example, in Thomas's van, let me spin around here. I like this thing. It's got wheels. There we go. All right, for example, right here, this is a panel that is exposed to the outside. Now, what I do on panels that have potential exposure is they won't be raw. I'll actually, I'll paint them. So I'll use like regular paint, like latex paint. And I'll paint the piece, I'll let it dry overnight, and then I'll put the adhesive on top of it. That way, if like a little bit of rain or moisture gets on there, it's not affecting the wood. The wood's sealed. But everywhere else in the van, it's not necessary. Just the places that you might get some rain on. Now, how does that pertain to cleaning it? So say you have like a lower... So pretty much on Thomas's van, like where the kitchen galley is, and anywhere there's like a kick area, like here, or there, I use the Rigahexa, which is this material right here. That's a Baltic birch plywood that's been laminated with like an embossed something. Okay. The places where you are not doing this, but you need to be able to clean it. You're going to want to paint it and put the fabric on, because I'm getting to answering the question. 1 second. So if you have that barrier, the adhesive, and then the fabric, when you do go to clean this fabric, you can clean this fabric. Where'd my piece of fabric go? All right. You can clean this fabric, okay? Now, I will tell you the only way that I've cleaned it, because I messed up on a panel. Somehow like a little bit of like wet paint was on the table on plastic, and I laid the corner of it down, and just a drop got on a panel, and I'd put a lot of work in this panel, so I wanted to save it. And so I immediately got denatured alcohol. So denatured alcohol. And I put it on a rag, and I just kind of patted it to get the paint wet. And then I lightly just rubbed it. And my idea was that the alcohol is going to evaporate and it should go back to normal. And it did that. So it came clean perfectly and, completely unnoticeable. Now, I wouldn't go crazy with the alcohol because it can compromise the adhesive. But the section that I used, it still stayed. It's fine. It's kind of a long way to answer that question, but the fabric is let's see if I can find out what it's made out of. Pretty sure it's got Teflon in it. Marathon tweed fabric. It is made of polyolefin. What is that? Here, you can join me. So we're looking at polyolefin fabric. It's more durable than polyester. It's heat sensitive. Oh, that's carpet. That's not the same thing. How about how to clean? Most stains can be easily removed, dabbing the stain lukewarm water. You can use bleach on... Don't quote me on this. I'm reading on the internet. This has nothing to do with what I put in his van. You'll need to ask perfectfit.com where I got it. But according to this type of fabric, you can put bleach on it. So here's the website, Perfect Fit, Marathon Tweed Fabric. And we used dark oatmeal. That's what we used for his van. Dark oatmeal. Also known as Duramax or Interweave. Leading choice in van conversion market. Cover wall paneling. While we're on here, this is where I get the fabric. They have tons of colors. The other van that I'm building at the moment has the gray heather, which is people love it. It's one of their favorites. You can also buy adhesive and foam from these guys. Okay, it doesn't show anything about cleaning. Anyway, hope that answered your question. Go and do. Any place, I mean, where I'm gonna detail this van before I give it back to Thomas, and I'll probably clean up some spots and just see how it does. Yeah, but as far as I know, it's been pretty easy to clean. In that one spot, which was paint, I don't think you're going to get paint on it. You're probably talking about like food or something like that. But the reason I say if you think it's a section that's going to get wet or that type of stain, like from a drink or whatever, I would seal the wood and then upholster it, because the fabric's probably going to be fine. It's going to come clean, but the wood is going to soak in whatever that is. Like the stain or dye or whatever. All right. Back over here. All right, keep up with those questions. We're gonna to go a little bit longer here, and I'm going to see if I had anything else to talk about. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the Rivnuts, measuring them, and the drill bit, how to measure for the drill bit used. Okay, so that'll probably be my last part of this stream. I'll explain that, and we'll probably be done for the night. So if you have a question, go ahead and put that in the chat so I can cover it tonight. All right, so when you put this into your van, there's a section in the van where I was telling you, so this part, of course it's off. So inside the van, oh my gosh, come on. The wall where those 3 pieces of silver tape are, I'm going to be putting in a insert. We covered this in the Amazon tool recommended DIY van builder tool live stream. And you get these things, they're called rivet nuts. They look like this. And what they do, it's a rivet that expands and allows a bolt to be threaded into it. So imagine this is your van wall. You put the rivet into the wall. And then to compress the rivet, you use 2 types of tools. You either use this one where you drill the hole. So let's talk about that. How do you drill the hole? It sounds simple, right? Not in a van. The steel that's in a van is completely different than anything you've drilled in before. There is different hardnesses in the van. The structural components of the van are made of a different type of steel, and it will destroy a drill bit in probably 2 holes. So you unfortunately need to buy expensive drill bits for doing the Rivnut, drilling the Rivnuts. I mean, the drill bits, when I say expensive, they're like $30 each. And they need to be carbide, solid carbide, not carbide tipped, not carbide coated, not blue, not black, solid carbide. So they're expensive, but it's going to save you the headache because you'll be there all day with just like a normal drill bit. So anyway, what I have here is I have the drill bit that I use. This is a 27/64. So let me do this on the drawing pad. So in case you guys want to just grab it from me, you'll... Okay. So you need a riv. Let's change colors. So we got riv. Rivet nut. Of course, my face just has to be right there, doesn't it? So you need a rivet nut, and this is a 5/16-18 bit. You're going to need a rivet nut tool. And the drill bit for a 5/16-18 is going to be 27/64 drill bit. That's the size. All right. Okay. Well, how do you find this out? Now, this sounds like a dumb question, but I do this stuff a lot, and I still needed a little help. So don't read into that too much. But we got a pair of calipers. These are digital calipers. All right. And what we want to do is we want to measure this Rivnut. Now, the reason I'm saying this is crazy is because if you buy stuff on Amazon or you buy it in a kit or whatever, you just got to be careful. Like the stuff like comes from China or overseas or anything like that. Sometimes it's off, and if you don't know that, and you're just I have like a bin of all my parts. And so I'm going through bags of these, but I noticed that I measured it, and this one, for example, is like I measured one earlier in the van. It was 10.5. This one's 10.7 millimeters. Don't worry, you don't have to go so OCD like this because I'm telling you the cheat code. So the 5/16-18 rivet, okay? I got 10.7. I just go to my drill bits, and I go in and measure, and I find one 10.4. So 10.4, 10.7, it's not that big of a deal. You can move the bit a little bit, but that's how I match a 27/64 bit with this right here. You can also use a fractional drill, fractional size drill gauge. And you can take this and you can put it in there. So you can find out that way. Now check this out. This says that this is a 29/64. This is a 27/64. So your local Lowe's is not going to have a 29/64 drill bit. They're going to have a 27/64. That's why that's the point I'm making. But anyway, so that's going to go in there, and then you got your drill. So we're going to act like this is the van. We're going to drill our hole, get it all nice and cleaned out. Then we're going to take our Rivnut tool, okay, and we're going to screw this on the end of it. And then we're going to twist this, which is going to thread it onto here. And then we're going to thread it on, and then we're going to pull it, and it's going to mushroom the top of this. And then we're going to take this and unscrew out of this. And now this is permanently in the steel. I'll do a real world example sometime. But I don't have time for that. So I bought this. All right. So this mounts to my drill. And I can now so what I can do here is I can screw my insert on. And then when I go in, so now when I go to drill it, this is, it is a whole gear system. Now you have to practice a lot because you can mess up. So practice on something that's not your van first. Something that's really good to use. If you've cut out, oh yeah, I will go on Amazon in just a second. I'll show you the exact one I got. So this is the cutout for the vent fan in a roof. All right. This piece of sheet metal is from the van, and it's perfect to practice on. So just take the piece that you cut out of your van, and what I'm trying to say, drill holes. Use this. All right, let's go shopping. Let's go to Amazon. Let's go into Rivnut tool. All right, if you just wanted to do it the old school way, you could buy these, no problem. Right there. This is the one I bought. Right here, Weed Tools. I bought this when I did not know better. I bought this one. It was like 3 or 4 years ago when I bought this one. I do use it for some technical places where if I accidentally hit the drill wrong, it'll really mess up. Yes, I will put the link in here. Let's see. So, come on. All right, so this should be the link to, where's my chat box? So this will be, rivet tool number 1. And then rivet tool 2. All right, so the second one is going to be was it Astro Pneumatics? There it is. Boom. So how about this 2021? Yeah, the disclaimer is just be very careful with this one. There is no feedback. You just have to kind of hear what you're doing, if that makes any sense. And then I'm going to give you rivet tool number 3. This is for people who don't care about budget. I'm trying to find it. There it is. Yeah, so this one is you want the tool. That's what this the last one is. It's $500, but what this one does is you can dial in the pressure. So Adventure Wagon, the company, this is what you see them use in the video, because they do this, all the time. So they don't use this exact gun, but they use a gun like it. So that's actually a great photo. Yeah, this is a great photo, guys. So if you're looking, this is what it does. See, it rivets it into the steel or sheet metal. But the nice thing about this one, I think about maybe getting one of these in the future, because you pull the gun and it goes like, and it just does it, and it has a standard PSI that it squeezes it at. So what you can do is this chamber on the back side, you dial in the squish. And then that way, every time you pull the trigger, it's going to deliver that much accurate PSI to the crimp. If you need high speed, you would go here. But I did... So the first van, Rivnut, first... Oh, yeah, so Rivnut plus nuts... they're the same thing. They're the same thing. Well, let's see here. I could be could be wrong. A plus nut has like they do the same thing. They're like a rivet, but I think a plus nut has these slices in it. But they're basically a piece of steel that's going in a hole and expanding. I like rivet nuts better than I like these. The rivet nut, these, for example, a rivet nut has these knurls on the inside. So when it mushrooms, it kind of has these like serrations that grab into the sheet metal. Because the last thing you want this thing to do is spin. That's happened to me before. And you can't use it if it just spins. But these kind of like, these buckle. See how they make like a little X pattern? So that's a plus nut. So I would not use plus nuts. I would use rivet nut. See how a rivet nut has these like striations right here? It's like these so that grips into the sheet metal and it allows it not to spin. You don't want it to spin. See right here? See what it does? On the right side of the screen? It's like these teeth. So you want these teeth to grip behind the surface so it doesn't spin. All I can say is with the... Yeah. All right, guys, we'll do a couple more minutes on the stream. So Any more questions tonight? I'm going to walk around the shop real quick and see if there's anything I laid out that I wanted to share with you tonight in this context. And then when I come back, whatever questions we have, we'll answer and we'll call it a night. All right, guys, we're going to be here for one more minute. Get those questions in. Otherwise, we will continue the stream tomorrow. We'll do just a quick blurb here. If you guys wanted to ask me any questions, make sure you head on over to Odyssey, customvans.com. So that is my van building business. You can go on the website, click on the contact page, and this is where you can get directly in touch with me. I said in the last stream, I will be putting together a consultation program where you can schedule a phone call with me. You can book a time. Ask me anything you want during the time that you have purchased. I will answer everything I can during that time. And I think it'll be an excellent way to really nail down certain questions you have that maybe I don't cover in the live stream. So this contact form is for future clients. So if you would like to have your van built by Odyssey Custom Vans, fill this form out just as you would any contact form. Subject line and message. Tell me your story. Tell me what you're looking for in your adventures and why you're building a van. Also use this form for the consultation purposes. So for subject, you can type in consult, and then the message, just say you want to book a time with me. Put a couple dates in there. I'll reach out to you and we'll set that up. But yeah, by next week I will have a system to where you can book on a calendar for consultations, because sometimes it takes more than just questions on the stream to help you with what you got, and I definitely want to help you out. So Odyssey Custom Vans, that goes directly to my inbox. If you just want to email me without the contact form, I do do the contact form. That way I know it comes through the website. I can organize it better. But my email is right there on the website. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed the live stream tonight. We will kick this off and give Nova a pet over here. But thanks you guys so much for watching tonight, and we will see you in the next live stream.